So those are just a couple different development rules. But let me just show you a quick example of a meaningful distractor. And I'll be very honest, I don't know any of this information. So it's a cart of mass of 10 kilograms is traveling at a speed of 4 minutes, I guess, per second. How much kinetic energy does it have? Yeah, exactly. Your faces are showing exactly how I feel about this too. So the point of this is that are all of these answers plausible answers? And they all are, and I'm going to show you how. The correct answer is actually B, and then I've given you the formula here. Okay, so that is actually the formula. That's how it's figured out. But with answer A, basically I just forgot to multiply it by a half. If that's a common error that students might make, you want to give this as an answer because you want to make sure that you're giving them a plausible thing that they might come up with incorrectly. Answer C, you use the formula for momentum instead of kinetic energy. And answer D, forgot to square velocity, which I should have done. So they're all plausible answers, all that students might have come up with rather than throwing in something that wouldn't even be a guess, like the cats example. So I'd like you to use your clicker to vote on the following test items. Tell me whether or not this is a good question. So here's the question. Which state was the last one to be admitted to the United States? I'm not asking you to answer the question. I want you to tell me, is it a good multiple choice question? We get caught up in wanting to answer the question. All right, all 13 are in. % of you said yes, it was a good question. Correct answer is yes, it is a good question. So we can talk a little bit about why did you think it was a good question? What made it a good question? Okay, I actually, yeah, if I'd thrown in Puerto Rico, right, that probably wouldn't be a plausible answer. And the other thing, too, is that not only did I actually use states, but I used plausible states. These are states that are out west. I didn't put Delaware in there, right, because then they'd be like, well, that's an obvious non-answer. And the problem is if I put in an answer that the students go, well, I know it's not Delaware, and I'm wanting to give them 4 choices. Which one of these 4 is correct? And if I give them a non-plausible answer that everybody in the class will go, well, we know it can't be Delaware, originally they have a 1 out of 25 chance of guessing correctly. If I get rid of the one that's definitely not it, now they have a 1 out of 33 chance. Now I'm actually giving them an easier chance of guessing it. So I want to make sure that all my answers are definitely plausible. And the way it's worded works out perfectly fine as well. So good job, you guys. Is this a well-designed multiple choice item? Bless you. All right, everybody's in? So 69% of you said no, it's not. 31 said yes, it is. The correct answer is actually no, it's not a good answer, or a good question rather. Anybody want to share why they think it was a bad question? Didn't know what the question was. What is the question, right? Exactly. There's no real question. You should give your information in the STEM, not in the answer choices, right? So Hawaii, that's the question. So we want to give more information in the STEM of the question rather than in the answer choices of the question. Very good. Good job. All right, so true, false. This is a common answer. Who cares? All right, so obviously we need to, we all know what a true-false question is. So let's talk about some do's and don'ts of true-false. just really quickly, we want to make sure we keep the statement short and simple. And we want to typically put the words true and false before the actual statement to clue the students in that this is a true-false question. So they're reading it with that in mind as they actually start reading the statement that you're going to be asking the question about. Make true statements about the same length as the false statements, because there's a tendency to not do that and it gives the answer away. Vary the ratio of true-false throughout the quiz if that's what you're giving, and making sure that you're not having all true or all false, so vary those. And also arrange the statements so there's no discernible pattern, true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. Right? So, okay. Some don'ts. Don't make the answers obvious to students who don't know the material, so in other words, again, plausible questions, plausible answers that they might know. Ask questions that are more appropriately answered. Don't ask questions that are more appropriately answered with yes-no type of questions. Oftentimes we might phrase a statement and it's more appropriate for yes-no rather than true-false. So just be careful about that. Don't use ambiguous or vague statements like large or regularly, some or usually, because we can always find a scenario where maybe that might be the case. So we don't want to make huge statements like that. And also with words like all and always, never, none. Because if one student can find a scenario where none, then they're like, well, or, always, is this always the case? So be really careful about using these really, really broad statements. All right, so use your clicker to vote on the following test items, true-false questions. Is the following true-false item well designed? Everybody's in. And 85% of you said yes, it is a good question. The correct answer is yes, it actually is a good question. Anybody have any reason as to say why you think it's a good question? Okay, it's a very clear question. It's about a factual something. It's not necessarily about an opinion. And I put true false at the beginning, so it's perfect, right? So it's a great question. All right, next example, is this a good question? You guys are quick to get on this one. And 100% said no. So either I'm a really good teacher, and you guys all got it right. And what's interesting is when we talk about item analysis, if this overall were the kind of the responses I was getting, this probably isn't a good question to ask on an assessment. Because if everybody's getting it right, now there's an exception to that rule, and I see your hand up, there's an exception to that rule. If I want to just kind of make students kind of feel good for the day, like I'll do that occasionally, like right before an exam or something, I want them to always kind of end on a high note. I don't want them going away feeling bad, and so I'll give them a kind of a gimme question just for fun, like in a review or something like that, and they all got it right. I'm like, look, wow, we're all good. So it just kind of makes them feel good if that was what we're trying to do. I can do some of those. I want to make sure that I can get through all the material, but I can do that occasionally. And in fact, in the first session I was able to, because the system made me do it, I actually did have to re-poll. So I can actually re-poll. So let's say, for instance, maybe a student said, oh, well, I didn't get the answer and you closed polling before I was in, and because I miscounted or I accidentally hit the button or something happens and I want to re-poll. In other words, I'll say, hang on, I want to actually re-poll you guys and ask if how you really feel, barring that we haven't already discussed that the answer is this, right? So I can actually go up here, and it's I can either remember it's an F4 button. I never remember the F4 button, so I just go up here along the toolbar, and so I can actually re-poll this question. And again, as I said this morning, what you want to do is you want to make sure you also move then the cursor off of the, and you know, and I'm okay. It's working very slow, and I wonder if it's because it's doing the recording in the background. Okay.
Also, we have people on campus that can help, go through more of the point click kind of stuff. Where do I go for this? How do I insert a slide? Kind of things. John's department can help out as long as we also have an intern, Sonia, that can help you out going through those types of things. So this is kind of more why or what I put into it as opposed to how did I get it in to the program. So, but we can touch base after if you want to go through other things as well.
And the other thing that's really nice too is that on the Turning Technologies website there's some great tutorials too that'll show you how to make certain slides and so forth. So I could repoll. Obviously, 2 of you wanted to get in. You already had the correct answer to begin with. So, all right. So I've closed. There we go. All right. Oh, well, now somebody said yes. Okay. All right. So no, this is actually not a good question. Using the word always, you don't want to use the word always because students who make always have average above average. No, not always. So is it likely? Quite possibly, but not always. So be really careful about that. And then lastly, the survey or the Likert type scale questions. Another quick cartoon. I always start out my classes either with a cartoon or a quote of the day, and my students, and I always then refer back to why I'm showing that particular cartoon or that particular quote for that day.